Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's time for the match preview with me, Andrew Musgrove, and John Gibson. We promised you guys that John would return to the studio for the final game of the season to help preview that clash against Everton. And here he is. He's been around the block trying to find the car park for the best part of the last hour, but you made it in.
I made it in eventually, mate. I hope Newcastle have a better sense of direction on Sunday than I had, but quietly confident that they will.
Are you nervous, though?
I'm bound to be nervous because you can't blow it on the last day. But I must admit, I'm confident. I was more nervous going into the Arsenal game than I am going into this game. I mean, the bottom line, Andrew, is it still in our own hands on the last day? And I guess you can't ask for more than that. Yes, we could have been like Liverpool, Arsenal, job done. But if not, then you want it to be in your own hands. And it is in your own hands. It's as simple as winning and we're there. So you can have tunnel vision. Just concentrate on this game. You know, it doesn't matter about Man City. It doesn't matter about Chelsea and Forest. It only matters if we're not winning during the game. If we win, the rest can do whatever they wish to do. And in my opinion, we have the best fixture, last day fixture. I mean, City, Villa, Chelsea all away. Forest have a difficult one at home, but they're home to Chelsea. There's something in it for both of them. We've got the best fixture. There's nothing in it for Everton. There's plenty in it for us. We've won 6 on the trot at home. We've got 50,000 mad Geordies going crackers. We've done it against the odds earlier this season with Liverpool. Let's do it against the odds being that Newcastle fail at the last hurdle in the past. Everything's in our favour for the result. That doesn't mean it's a walk in the park. It cannot be when you can actually trip up and things go wrong. But it's as good as it gets.
Yeah, and I think for me, I do have a little bit of nerves going into this game, totally understandable. But what we've seen with Eddie Howe for the large part, especially this season, is that the games that they have to win, the performances that they have to turn up and put out, they tend to do so. So my nerves are much less than they would have been a couple of seasons ago or under another Newcastle United manager, because I feel like Eddie Howe has got it into his team, into his squad, where they feel comfortable in this big game environment, when they know something's on the line, when they know it's 90 minutes and the prize is there. And they seem to, as I say, for the large part, get over the line.
Yes, they do, and that's very reassuring. And we've thought of all the big games this season when Newcastle have beaten Arsenal 3 times, have beaten Nottingham Forest 3 times, have beaten Chelsea twice up here in the league, in the cup. When the big games have been on, Newcastle have turned up. And believe you me, regardless of the opposition, and this is with respect to Everton, regardless of the opposition, this is a huge game. They had the party last week at Goodison. We'll have a party this week at St James's Park.
Do you fear, though, the pantomime villain grabbing the headlines, Mr. Jordan Pickford?
I know how much you would love it. And he certainly plays the crowd, and the crowd play him. And he would love to do that. But no, I don't fear him. He's got short arms.
We'll just quickly run through the table because it is so tight. I'm sure you guys don't need reminding of how tight it is, but we'll remind you anyway. City, having beat Bournemouth on Tuesday, are now third, 68 points. They face Fulham. They've got a goal difference of 26. Newcastle in fourth on 66, goal difference of 22. And they, of course, face Everton. Then we've got Chelsea in fifth, 66, a goal difference of 20. And they face Forest. Villa in sixth, 66 points, goal difference of 9, and they face Man United. Forest down in 7th on 65 points, a goal difference of 13, and they, of course, face Chelsea. So it is so tight, John. Can you remember it being this close?
Hugely so. I mean, a week ago, there was only a point in it, a couple of points now with City. But, and we have got to be careful, because what has tended to happen recently, Andrew, is that every team's won. You know, Newcastle didn't, the Arsenal, yeah, but normally every team's won. When we've looked for a team to fall over, even including Man City in midweek against Bournemouth, they haven't. So we've got to presume that City will win, Villa will win, and Chelsea or Forest will win rather than the draw. So you're going to get 3 wins there. But that's okay as long as we win. We've got our job to do. It's simple now. It's straightforward. There's not an if or but or what happens in the next game. All on the line. And we get through an hour and a half, blood, sweat, and fears. No tears, please. It's all on the line. For me, the game will be won on the park, but it'll be won also before the park. Eddie Howe, for me, has got 3 major decisions to make, which will really set the tone for Newcastle one way or the other. The first one, Isak, is he fit? That's the first major decision. The second one is Botman. How fit is he? Because he dictates the way we play. Do we play with a 5 or do we flatten it out? Botman's fitness depends. So Isak, Botman, the third one, Gordon, do we trust him? And those 3 decisions will be major to Newcastle, and we've got to get them right. With Isak, we've got to just pray that he can patch up and go one more time, because believe you me, we know mainly when he doesn't play how much we want him to play. 4 Premier League games this season when he hasn't started, we've never scored in open play in those 4 games. 1 penalty. We went to Everton and drew 0-0. Isak didn't start. We got a penalty. Gordon took it, missed it. We miss Isak. We really do miss Isak. Botman will decide the way we play. Is he fit enough to risk? We've done it, and he was a surprise at Arsenal to start, but he only lasts about an hour when he does start at the moment. Do we start with him, and therefore it would be a 5? Because if you start him, you're not going to drop Shaw or Burn.
Well, that was going to be my question to you about the 5 at the back or the 4 at the back, because it is a big debate on social media. A lot of fans want to see Newcastle go back to the 4 at the back with your 3 across the middle, your 2 wingers, and then you 1 up top, because you look at it and you say, well, it's Everton, with all due respect. You shouldn't really be having to play 5 at the back against Everton. But as you say, is Botman ready to play in a 4? Who would you drop out of Burn and share the big decision on a big day?
Yeah, Isak, Botman and Gordon are the 3 major decisions for me that's got to be made by Eddie Howe. It's what I would do, and who can second guess Eddie? Because we didn't know Isak wasn't going to play at Arsenal until the team sheet come out. So who can guess Eddie? But if it was up to me, I would flatten the back 4 out. I think we needed that extra belt and braces against sides like Chelsea and Arsenal that carry a threat. Everton don't carry the same threat up top. I would flatten the back 4 out, put the extra man in midfield, and then you've got the big decision to be made up front. Isak plays or doesn't play, and if he does play, what about Gordon?
So if Botman's fit, are you still going back to the 4 and putting Botman on the bench?
Yes.
Okay. Isak, if he's fit, he goes into the starting 11. Even if it's 80%, he's still better than it.
And if you're only going to get an hour out of him, get an hour out of him.
Of course, Gordon isn't a fitness issue. It's an attitude issue that many people are raising and questioning. For me, on Sunday, I start him on the bench. I move Harvey Barnes back onto the left. I played Jacob Murphy on the right, Emil Kraft at right back, Livramento at left back with Cher, Burn at centre back, and go back to that 4. Bringing Lewis Miley into the middle alongside Bruno and Tonali. Although I don't think he'll do that. I think it'll be Joe Willock. But on Gordon, doesn't start for me. I don't think he handles Everton very well. I don't think he's taken the opportunity that he's been presented over the last few weeks at the expense of Harvey Barnes, who was in great form on the left. Now, I think that might have been lost on a lot of people, actually. Like, Gordon was very fortunate that Eddie Howe put that amount of trust in him and said, you know what, I'm going to remove probably the informed player at the moment onto the other flank to accommodate you. And I have to say, I think he's let himself down in the performances he's put in. And look, people say scapegoat, Newcastle lost against Arsenal. We've got to, jump on someone's back. I don't think it is that. I think you can question his performances since he's come back into the side. And for me, he starts on the bench on Sunday.
Yeah, I can follow that totally. Excuse me. I can follow that totally. He doesn't handle Everton well. Pickford hands Newcastle well. Pickford relishes being the pantomime villain. He takes a crowd on and the crowd take him on. Gordon is hated by the Everton crowd in the way that Pickford's hated by the Geordies. Pickford relishes it and raises to it and he raises his game. Gordon didn't when he went to Goodison, and that was this season. And last season when he went to Goodison wasn't great. It seems the crowd seemed to get to him. We had a penalty in 35 minutes down at Goodison. Isak wasn't playing, so he had to take the penalty. Easy save for Pickford. Blew a good chance later on. He doesn't handle the Everton thing where he's disliked intensely by their crowd because of where he left. Some people rise to the bait of that. He doesn't, or he doesn't do it too well. It's not just that he gives the ball away sloppily at Arsenal. I would do what you do. I would put him on the bench and start your two wingers. The amazing thing is, you were saying there as well, Andrew, is when the faith that Eddie Howe put in him by moving Bonds, his best player, onto the other side, he even moved Murphy to play effectively right back to accommodate Gordon. So, I mean, which was quite amazing. I mean, if Isak is fit, and I think he'll be patched up and start, I know you won't last 90 minutes. Well, maybe he's getting an hour out of him and hope that we've got the breakthrough in that hour. If he didn't start, I think that's Gordon's best chance of playing, because I think he could start as a false nine. I would actually, if Isak didn't play, I would start Gordon as a false nine before I would start Callum Wilson or Sule in that position.
Really interesting point of view there, because I think we all know what will happen if Alexander Isak isn't fit on Sunday, and it will be Callum Wilson, despite the fact he just looks
I'm
so
sure it will,
out of his
but I mean,
depth.
I've got no faith in him whatsoever.
No. And again, that reaffirms the point that we've been saying for months on this podcast, if not the best part of the last 2 years. Newcastle need to go out and buy a striker who's ready to compete with Alexander Isak.
But the sadness is, Andrew, that's been like that for the last two windows. For the last two, and the only guy who bought is Sule, and the kid has got promise. His header was superb. His goal, he's enthusiastic, he's quick, but he's tomorrow's man. He's not today's man.
But again, doesn't that emphasize just how badly might be the wrong word to use, but on Sunday against Arsenal, just how forgettable Callum Wilson and Anthony Gordon were? That Sule came off the bench and was the most lively out of the three, and you think, we're there. He's got what, 25 minutes, half an hour. You've had the best part of an hour, and you've done nothing. I mean, Gordon got the full game, didn't he? And you've done nothing, and that speaks volumes for me. And again, points to the summer. But
I still wouldn't go with the Sule as a start.
No, I wouldn't.
If we haven't got Isak.
No.
And the only reason I say Gordon is a start. Well, there's several reasons. One, that I wouldn't risk a Sule. He's a bane. Don't hang him out to dry in this game. We don't get the result we want. He'll be forever remembered as the bloke that come in and we blew the Champions League, the worst case scenario. Wilson, I'm sorry. I've been watching him week upon week upon week. He said this week, bless him, he knows his worth and he knows what he can do, and injuries won't get in the injuries won't get in the way, won't stop him playing. That's a new one for Callum, bless him. I mean, do you think he's got blinkers on here or what? He can run about. I can run about. Even at my age, I could run about, but I couldn't play centre forward for Newcastle. He doesn't play that the way he used to play it at all. So I wouldn't play a Sule. I wouldn't play Callum Wilson because I've seen enough, and I think he would play Callum Wilson, but I wouldn't. No, the reason I would play Gordon is because I would have no alternative. He played in a false nine exceptionally well with the under-21s in the big tournament when he got man of the match. And he's played that for us. He's not a natural goal scorer. He plays it like Havertz played it down at Arsenal. He's not ideal. He's not. But at least your three forwards then, which would be Murphy, Gordon and Bonds, are quick and they can play. By that, I mean they're comfortable on the ball. It would be a massive downgrade from Isak, which is why we need Isak to play, even if he's patched up and told you can have the whole summer to get yourself fit again.
It's funny that I imagine a lot of people watching and listening to this might actually opt for William Asula. If they were making the decision, who would you throw up front, Gordon, Wilson, or Asula if Isak isn't fit? And I think a few people would say Asula, and I can see why. He's energetic, he's unpredictable, but he is a young kid. He looks raw, and he looks also much better on the right than he does up top.
I can understand. It's all a matter of opinion. I can understand one or two saying, Wilson, look, he scored 49 goals for us. He needs a 50th. We've just seen Vardy score in that position. De Bruyne didn't mind when he for his farewell. But, you could say that about Wilson. You could say that about Asula. You can go with Gordon, but Will is got a chance, but he's just raw. He's incredibly raw. He's played a handful of games for Sheffield United. I don't think he's anywhere near what we'd need on Sunday. Anyway, I would like to close down this conversation because I need Isak, and I think we'll have Isak. Unless one of Isak's legs has fallen off, I think he'll be patched up and sent out there and say, give us an hour, mate.
Do you think the whole Isak not being available for Arsenal was a little bit like the Liverpool game back at Anfield a few weeks before the Cup final? It was Eddie Howe just kind of protecting his asset for the more important and more winnable game.
You would never admit that, but no. Because the next game is the important one and we've got to win it. But I did say, I think on here before we went to Arsenal, when we were a little bit apprehensive, I took a draw 1-1, and I think I still should have been right, because I think we could have got a 1-1 out of that if we'd done what we need to do in the first half. But we didn't have Isak, and that changed the picture completely. But this was always going to be the game to win. If we need 3 points before Arsenal, the place to do it was going to be here. A, because it's here, and B, because it's Everton instead of Arsenal. And, the game down there for me just completely was dominated by two superstars. They got Rice back, and he scored the goal. We lost Isak, and we didn't score at all. Almost simple as that.
But obviously positives to take away from that game. Newcastle did play really well in the first half and would have felt really down not to have the lead at the end of the first half.
But when you're sitting watching that, Andrew, you're saying, aren't you, if you're truthful, you're saying, come on, if you don't take your chance, you're going to be in trouble. Because we have all those chances. We don't take one because the chances felt that people are natural finishers. We got Byrne with a header. Yes, he's good, Byrne, but he's a centre-half. We get Bruno. We get Livramento. The second half gets in a position, checks out.
The biggest one for me was the Willock miss.
And Willock.
In the second half. That was the one that I think should have nestled right in the back of the net. He just puts it over. But anyway, back to...
That's in the past and exactly. We can do nothing with it.
And that's what Howe said, look, second's gone, this game's gone. We've just got to focus on Sunday. And that's what they'll be doing all this week. Just a reminder that this episode is sponsored by NordVPN. You can head over to nordvpn.com/tune. The link will be in the podcast description box. You can grab yourself 4 extra months on the 2-year plan, and there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. As mentioned, the link is in the podcast episode description box. You can protect your private data like bank details and your passwords and your online identity. You can also be protected while you're traveling and using public Wi-Fi. And NordVPN protects you wherever you are in the world. And it's also the fastest VPN in the world as well. So loads of benefits. You're protecting yourself and supporting the podcast. So do make sure you hit that link. As we obviously know, massive game on Sunday, John. And I think a lot of people are expecting Newcastle United to win, which is fair enough. Everton, nothing to play for. Newcastle at home, as you've mentioned, really good form of late coming into this game at St James's Park. But we can't take this as a given, can we?
No.
What is the method, do you think, this week in terms of not letting that expectation breed into complacency?
It's a very thin line that Newcastle were treading this week. On one side, you've got to not be complacent and say we just turn up and win. But on the other side, if you keep emphasising the negative things, Everton can do this to you, Everton can do that for you. If we don't get the break, what if Isak doesn't play? You can suck all the confidence out of the side completely, where we're going into with a bundle of nerves. I think you've got to be positive, but you've got to say it's one last shove. This is the last shove. One final effort. You make it big. You say goodbye to one of the best seasons Newcastle United's ever had, if winning a trophy and getting in Champions League. You say goodbye to the Geordies, you say thank you to the Geordies on that day, and you take your lap of honour and you take your applause. You must finish that way. We can't contemplate failure. To get as far as we've got and then fall down when it's in our own hands is just non-negotiable. That cannot be allowed to happen. We've got to go out there positive. We've got to say, man for man, we are better than them. They'll not think so. We've got to show them that we are. We've got to show one more time the Geordie people how much we care. We showed that at Wembley. We went in against the City of Liverpool's better team, Liverpool, in it. We've got Everton, the not so good Liverpool side this time. But they'll be stubborn. They'll want it. Pickford will want it. They've got an ex-Mackham manager who's not a Mackham, and that's not his love of his life. He's a jock, and the love of his life is probably Everton. It's second time there. But we've got to go out and get the job done. And Eddie will be concentrating on the positive, while saying naught is taken for granted. And also, we don't want to just win 1-0 with a fluky goal and a poor performance. Come on, this is the end of potentially the greatest season Newcastle have had since when? Because in the days, even if you want to stretch it, in the 50s, when we kept winning the FA Cup, there wasn't Europe. So they were in the league, and they let the league form taper off, and they were just down beneath where we are now in the league when they won the cup the 3 times in the 50s. So this can be a better season. And when 2 years ago, when we got in the Champions League, we didn't win anything. We have this year. This can be your best ever season. Don't blow it on the last day. Don't spoil it. Don't leave a bad taste in the mouth during the summer. Or we blew the Champions League after winning the cup. Go out all guns blazing. Go out on your shield. Go out on your shield.
Yeah, send everyone into the summer really, really happy. It's interesting though, isn't it? Because I'm a kind of guy who says I'd rather have the points on the board. Of course, I'd rather be in Newcastle's position in 4th and it's in their hands. But others might say, well, actually, you know what? I'd prefer to be the ones who are hunting down Newcastle United and whether you be a Villa or a Chelsea sort of position.
Not at this stage.
Not with one game left, I guess.
Not at this stage. With one game left, you don't want to be hunting down Newcastle, because if Newcastle win, you can win 6, and you're still not going to do it.
Do you think the fact that Newcastle are in 4th and there's an expectation they win, they are in a great position, of course, and we don't want to swap that with anyone, but does that lead to a potential slip up? Because maybe if you're a Villa or a Forest, you're going, well, the likelihood is that we won't make it to the Champions League, so we'll go out and we'll just do our best. We'll do what we have to do. Whereas Newcastle United, they know it's clear. They win, they're in the Champions League. Whereas Villa and Aston Villa, not that they've not got nothing to lose, but they've got nothing to lose, sort of thing.
I think Villa will be going for it. Their manager, Unai Emery's like that. They're like that. They loved the Champions League this year. They got a long, long way. I mean, I think they deserve the Champions League along with Newcastle. Villa, I really do. More than I think Forest, bless them. More than Chelsea, who bought a boatload of players and don't know who to field and are going to stagger through. No, they don't deserve it. I think Villa and Newcastle deserve it more than Man City. But I think Man City are in the driving seat, of course, now. 2 points clear of us and the rest of the field. Yet they lose it Fulham, and the rest of us win. They could still miss Europe. They could still miss the Champions League. That's how tight it is. It's going to be phenomenal. But I tell you what, I'm happy to be where we are.
Oh, without
Let
a
us
doubt.
forget the rest. We are in the box seat. I don't want to be the sides chasing us. I know that effectively there's a lot of sides on the same points as us, but our goal difference gives us a huge point advantage, really, over, say, somebody like Villa. Hugely so. It's a point advantage. So we're going into the last game, as far as Villa's concerned, a point ahead of them.
In terms of Bruno, the captain, because I'm just wondering what will be going through his head in the build-up to kick-off. Obviously, for players who haven't got that responsibility, it's about, you know, setting your mind, getting focused, getting yourself up for this game. But as a captain, you have got added responsibility. What do you think his message will be heading into kick-off?
I know what my message will be to him. Don't lose your head, son. Keep your enthusiasm, but don't lose your head, because, bless him, he's always capable of losing his head. And that's the last thing you want in a situation like this. But he faced a greater situation. Newcastle hadn't won a cup in 70 years, domestic one, and he was the skipper at Wembley, and the side we were playing at Wembley was a good side. And him and Tonali and Joe Linton absolutely swept their midfield off the park there. So he's faced this sort of situation already this season and has triumphed. Ironically, considering, I guess, that the answer with Newcastle, I mean, a 1-0 and the job's done. So you keep a clean sheet at the back and score at least once and the job's done. Yet, in lots of ways for me, the midfield, rather than the defence or the attack, can run this show, because they're the platform that can provide the extra cover for the flat back four, if it is a flat back four, and provide the inspiration to get beyond the strikers, especially if Isak's not playing, and score the goals. And I think that Tonali and Bruno are two warriors. They're two seasoned internationals with heavyweight countries, Brazil and Italy. They ran the show at Wembley. Bruno going forward can be terrific. Tonali's just a different level to virtually everybody else. I think they can be the key to getting Newcastle to where we want them to be on Sunday.
Just to confirm, who for you starts in the midfield three alongside Bruno Tonali?
Miley, but it'll be Willock.
I agree, and I think most people in the comments will agree with that as well. I'm just looking here at the starting 11 that Everton played against Southampton. Of course, last game at Goodison Park, a day full of emotion. They won 2-0. And, you know, usually we talk about the midfield battle being key, but no disrespect to Everton's midfield of Garner and Gay, and then McNeil and Doucouré and Day playing a more attacking part of the midfield. You know, we have the better midfield there. Every day in a week we have the better midfield, and Newcastle's midfield of Bruno and Tonali should be winning that battle. You then look at the fullback.
I think that's why it's the key, because that battle's winnable. They won the battle. It wasn't supposed to be winnable at Wembley because their midfield was vaunted as the best in the Premier League. This midfield can be overrun by people of the quality there, and the work Tonali does putting the fires out at the back, and the work Bruno does lighting the fires at the front, can be the key for us getting what we have to get.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then you look at Everton's defence, and Branthwaite had to come off with 15 minutes remaining against Southampton, so he's likely to be missing on Sunday, or at least it's going to be touch and go. Coleman lasted just 18 minutes. It was more likely that he started that game as captain as a send-off and a bit of a sentimental gesture. Ashley Young came on to right back at the age of 38, 39.
He's gone. Well, I mean, he could play in this one, but he knows he's leaving.
He's likely to be the man who will play at right back. So, you know, maybe that might give the nod to Anthony Gordon, who's maybe more of a runner than Harvey Barnes.
Well, I tell you what, everybody will want to play against Young.
I'll give it a go.
He's a misnomer, isn't he? He's extremely old, not young.
And then Mikolenko on the other side at left back. So if it's Murphy, if it's Barnes, you know, you kind of backing them to win that game as well.
And if we start battering them in the first 10 minutes, do you think they'll say, right, we'll battle you for an hour and a half? They'll say, if you want it that bad, you can have it. We'll be on the coach way home at the end of the match here. I mean, you know, if we get at them early doors, and if we're on top of them, if we don't let them breathe, if we're all over them like a rash, they'll say, hey, come on, this isn't the cup final. we'll be on our way.
That's the point, isn't it? And you mentioned it before. Man for man, Newcastle United, even if Isak isn't available, are better than this Everton side, and they're going to be patched up on the Everton. So on paper, Newcastle United are the better side. They should be winning this game. If they are going to be proper top 4, top 5 contenders every single season, these are the sort of games that you win, not just because of what's on the line, but because of the ability of the opposition.
Sure.
It's about the application. It's about the attitude. It's about the nerves, isn't it, on Sunday? That, for me, is the only thing that can bring Newcastle United down. If the nerves get the better of them, if there's nerves in the terraces, which would be understandable.
I think I know where you're coming from, Andrew, but you know what? I don't think this side suffers from that now. I think they used to, last season, etc. But the way they are now, I don't think they do. I think they're quite calm. They know what they've got to do. They believe in themselves. And much more important than believing in yourself, you believe in each other. You don't, if I'm Tonali, I don't just believe I'm good, but what about the rest of them? I look at Bruno and think, yeah. I look at Isak and say, oh, that'll do. I look at Big Dan Burn eating blokes for breakfast and think, aye, I've got a chance here. They believe in each other. I don't think they panic anymore, and I don't think they get complacent anymore. I could be proved wrong, but heaven forbid that I am, because we're in trouble then. But I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting us to get over the line on Sunday. It's just how difficult is it going to be? Is it going to be nail-biting job before we get there? And a lot will be riding on Isak. Now, let's be truthful. Isak's form since Wembley has not been great. But I tell you what, we can all see what it's like when he isn't there. When you look at Arsenal and you look at the stat, which is 4 games he hasn't started, we haven't scored an open play in those 4 games. That tells us, in one of them was at Everton and no. And the penalty was missed because he wasn't there to take it.
Yeah, that tells you all you need to know about the importance of Alexander Isak. And fingers crossed, he is fit and ready to be picked on Sunday. What is your message then, John, to the team? Eddie Howe, as he did before the cup final, invites you into the dressing room, says, deliver the team talk, Gibbo. What are you saying to the players?
I don't think it should need a team talk on Sunday, but what I would just say is I would just look around the dressing room and say, I want to thank you all for being in this dressing room all season. You've given me and this club and the Geordie people a unique time that they're so appreciative of. You give them a trophy and they give you 300,000 bloody cheers at the end of it. Don't spoil a season that'll live in your memory and their memory for the rest of their lives. I was there when Newcastle won their first trophy since Bodicea was on a chariot. Don't spoil that now. Win a double. Because if we make the Champions League and we've got the League Cup, that's a double. That is a double. Win that double. Go home, go on your summer holidays, leave the hard bit to me, Eddie Howe, and the recruitment staff, and we'll give you a good squad to fight the job next season. You're an hour and a half away from the greatest season you may ever have in your career. Don't spoil it. And don't spoil it in front of the fans who turned up in their thousands to welcome you home with a cup. Give them one last hurrah before it's over. Give yourself a hurrah and give yourself a better playground for next season, the Champions League. You've only got an hour and a half left. Do it in that hour and a half. We're there, job done. We'll all go home. We'll get the sunscreen out. We'll get the flip-flops, and off we'll go to the warmer climes. Let's do it.
Yeah, for me, I just say you've put yourself in this great position. You've proved to the world that despite injuries, you are a Champions League squad. You deserve to be there on merit. It's not luck. You guys have worked so hard to get within touch and distance of the Champions League once more. This is what every player wants to do.
Absolutely.
Which competition every player wants to play in. It's in your hands. Just go out and do what we know you can do and beat the teams that you should be beating and send these Geordies into the summer with a huge smile on their face. And wouldn't it just be the cherry on top? Champions League football after winning the Carabao Cup.
Oh, I mean, I couldn't think of anything better. At the season start, and when we were twice 12th, which we mentioned before Christmas in the table, to think we'll be in the Champions League and we'll have a cup at the end of this season. You say, get this fantasy island stuff. That no, it's not. And I want my old heart to be well pleased, and I don't want nothing will take away us winning our first trophy. Nothing. But I don't want that little bit of disappointment, that little bit of sour taste by on the final day blowing it at home, and not away to Liverpool, who needed to win to get the Premier League title, and we lost 4-3, the famous scores. Not you know, home to Everton. You win that. You win that. And by the way, we will.
Yeah, I think we will. Just get the job done, lads. You deserve it. You've earned it. One final push, one last big effort to get over the line and secure Champions League football once again. John, before I ask you, well, no, I'm going to have to ask you for your prediction first, because I was going to ask you how the table finishes, but we'll go for your prediction first, because that will then tell us how the table finishes.
Yeah.
So how's it going to go Sunday-wise for Newcastle?
Oh, Newcastle win. We just got to decide what the score is going to be. And quite frankly, I don't care, because if we win, it'll not be, our goal difference is so good now, and it will be better by definition, because you've won, that it doesn't matter how many. And to a great extent, it might depend on whether Isak plays or doesn't, how many they win by. I'm taking us to win regardless, but how many we win by. But it almost doesn't matter. And you know what? I don't care who finishes in the other positions. And I actually don't care whether we finish third, because Man City have lost it at Fulham and we win, so we go third. That would be lovely, don't get us wrong. But third, fourth, or fifth, at the end of the day,
it doesn't matter.
It's Champions League. And that's all that matters. And anybody else can scrap around for the other positions. I don't particularly care.
I think Newcastle will win. I'm hoping it's going to be comfortable. But as we've said, it doesn't really matter what the score is, as long as Newcastle United win. I think City will win, so they'll finish third. Newcastle will finish fourth. I think Villa will draw at Man United, but I think Forest will beat Chelsea. Chelsea away from London are awful. We saw them up here. I mean, they were strangely a better side with 10 men, which was bizarre. But Forest at home, City ground, that should be rocking, that should be buzzing. So for me, I think Forest will finish sixth. I think Chelsea will finish outside the top six, with Villa fifth, Newcastle fourth, and City third. So Frank Clark will be happy.
I mean, I think that's what would be deserved. A lot of romance would love to see Forest in there, and I can understand that totally. I grudgingly say I think Aston Villa are good enough and deserve to get the fifth place. But to be truthful, I don't care. Cocky Leaky Juniors could get the fifth place as far as I'm concerned. I don't care, as long as we are comfortably in that five. Everybody else. I'm a bit sick, mind, that somebody like Spurs or Man United are in the competition with us next season. For how have they justified that? By managing not to be relegated out the Premier League because they're the next two. I know the rules are the rules, and the rules say if you win the Europa Cup, you go in. So fair dues, you've got to play by the rules. But it's a disgrace, isn't it? And it gives them the financial firepower in the summer that we have.
Yep. Again, though, that is the rules. They are very frustrating.
Yeah.
Funny enough, even if Spurs win, I think they'll be playing the Champions League with a new manager next season. But anyway, that's
all
episode.
By the by.
I was just about to sign off, but I always joke with you, John, about the colour cardigan that you're wearing.
Yep.
And it is the royal blue of Everton. But you've tried to set it off by the black and white T-shirt you're wearing.
I have. And I like to be defiant. I want to think that I've done this a few times recently, because my nickname's Little Boy Blue. So,
but you've also got a nice claret, or a nice maroon one, haven't you, as well?
Yes, I have. But I like to think Newcastle are good enough. You see, in the old days, I used to be so superstitious, and when I was at Gateshead with the team, I was so superstitious. You know, if I had a particular shirt or tie on one day, and Gateshead won a terrific game in the FA Cup away to a league side, or Newcastle got a Brahma result, I'd wear that the next week. I'm trying to say I'm so confident in this Newcastle side now. I don't think they need my superstitions to get them over the line. They'll take care of that themselves. And I'll wear blue because under these glasses I go with my eyes.
Well, fingers crossed you are correct. And I do share your sentiment as well. I think this team under Eddie Howe, as I said earlier in the episode, largely does what's expected of them, what is needed of them. And of course, that is beating Everton on Sunday to qualify for the Champions League. Me and John are both backing them to do so. I'm sure a lot of you are. I'm sure you'll be just as nervous as we are. But this is Eddie Howe's Newcastle United we're talking about. They've risen to the challenge many a time this season. No latter in the Carabao Cup final. So let's hopefully round off the season with qualification to next season's Champions League. For myself and John, it's been an absolute pleasure bringing you these match previews throughout the entire season. Don't fret, we'll be back most weeks during the summer, which we look forward to talking about everything Newcastle United. So watch out for those episodes as we bring back Let's Talk About segments of the show. But for now, all attention turns to Everton. Fingers crossed for 3 points for Newcastle United. Thanks to John for popping into the studio. Thanks to you guys for watching and listening. And we'll see you guys very soon.